and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm doing my last pregnancy update. I am 40 weeks and technically 2 days today, but I am so ready to be over with this pregnancy, and I'll talk more about that when I get to my symptoms because it has been really bad the last few weeks. I'm gonna go through my questions like I normally do. My first is how far along. So this will be covering up to my 40 weeks, and the baby is the size of a small pumpkin and he is ready to be born at any moment, which is exciting. My next question is my total weight gain or loss, and right now I'm at fluctuating between 215 and 217, so that's a total of 35 to 37 pounds for my entire pregnancy. My next question is maternity clothes. I'm definitely in maternity clothes. My next question is sleep, and sleep has been a lot more difficult lately. I've been taking things to go to sleep a lot more, and since I started my maternity leave at work 2 days ago, it's been easier for me to take something for sleep because I don't have to be up really early or at a certain time. So I'm back to taking Unisom, although I feel it does still make me groggy, so I don't like to take it. But I am still taking that and melatonin. My best moment for this week, well, week period, because I'm doing like basically my last month in this update, was getting to do an extra ultrasound and seeing the baby again. That was really exciting. But it was also, I'll get more into that with symptoms, but it was also to check my fluid levels, so that was a little concerning, but it was fun to see the baby again. I enjoyed that. So symptoms, oh my gosh, this last month has been absolutely horrible. Like as soon as I hit 37 weeks, everything just got crazy, and it's just been awful. So for me personally, and especially compared to my first pregnancy. So my first pregnancy, I had no signs of labor. I had no pressure. The baby never dropped. I had nothing significant going on. I just, my stomach kept getting bigger, and I had really horrible carpal tunnel, and I also had the relaxin hormone really kick in, so my joints and pelvis were really loose. But other than that, it wasn't that terrible. But with this pregnancy, as soon as I hit 37 weeks, I don't think the baby actually dropped at that point, but I started to have a lot more symptoms with relaxin, and it started to hurt and get painful, and the pressure just got insane, and pressure to a point of pain. And I didn't experience that with my first pregnancy. I don't know, I guess I wasn't expecting it this time, but oh my gosh, it totally hurts. I guess when he really pushes his head down, it doesn't feel good. I've also had sciatica, so I guess from all the pressure from his head, it's putting pressure on the sciatic nerve, and I have horrible shooting pains from always on my left side, from my left butt cheek down to my knee, and it is awful. And unless I sit down, I don't get relief from that pressure. Sometimes I have a little relief from it if I like literally lean forward and make him change where his head is. It's just absolutely crazy. I don't know. I had no idea that was gonna happen, and I definitely wasn't expecting it. I'm also super swollen everywhere, and this started right around 38 weeks, and not like my ankles like with my first pregnancy, but my face, my lips, my entire body, everything is just super swollen. I'm very uncomfortable. Aside from the pressure and the sciatica, it's not painful to be so swollen, but it's really crazy. I'm more swollen on the left side of my body. I'm not wearing my wedding rings anymore because I don't think that I can get them off if I put them on, so I'm just wearing rubber rings because those can be cut off really easily. Although I've been able to get them off, I've been fine with that because they're flexible. But it's crazy to me how much different the end of this second pregnancy has been for me. The night before I went in for my 38-week appointment, I had some discharge that felt more liquidy to me than the normal discharge that I'd been having. And if you're pregnant right now or you've been pregnant before, you know what I'm talking about. Pregnancy discharge is gross. It's not fun in any way. And I honestly have never talked to or known a pregnant woman who hasn't had, you know, discharge during her pregnancy. So obviously it happens to everyone. But I felt it was a little bit watery. And with my first pregnancy, I was leaking amniotic fluid for almost a week before I went to the hospital and had them check it. I did go to the doctor the day after, and they told me, oh, there are changes in your cervical fluid and it can be liquidy. And it didn't change, and it kept happening. And finally I just went to the hospital and it ended up being amniotic fluid, and I had to be induced. And so I'm so paranoid of that now. I have a new doctor, by the way. Definitely have a new doctor's office after that. So I went in for my 39-week appointment, and they checked me, and it was not amniotic fluid, and they did an extra ultrasound to check my fluid levels. And the midwife said I also was measuring a little bit smaller, which was weird because I hadn't been at any other appointment, and at that point, you know, you're going weekly. And she also said that it could just be from the baby dropping, which that's definitely what it was, because they checked his size in the ultrasound and he was actually measuring a little bit ahead. That was good to know that he was okay, but also for me a little bit worrisome, although I guess, you know, there's no reason to really be worried. My first son was 3 days overdue, and he was 8.5 pounds. At my 38-week appointment, the doctor checked my cervix, and I was 2 centimeters dilated, 70% effaced, and the baby was at a -2 station. So not super low, but low enough. When she felt him, she said she felt like he'd already dropped. I haven't really felt that. I know he's lower in my stomach, but I still have trouble breathing. At my 37-week appointment, my midwife noticed that the baby's heart rate was really fluctuating a lot, and it was getting quite low. And so she put me on the NST. After seeing the fluctuations in his heart rate, she felt fine with that and satisfied that he just had a really low baseline heart rate. At my 40-week appointment with a different midwife, she listened and heard the same thing, and I guess his heart rate was in the really low hundreds, between 100 and 110, and it stayed there, and it wasn't really moving around. And she said it could be normal for him and baseline for him, but she was really uncomfortable with that, and she hadn't seen anything quite that low in my notes. So she sent me over to get put on the NST machine, and there were 3 people ahead of me waiting and somebody already on it. So it was going to take over an hour, and she said she was really uncomfortable with that and wanted me to go to the hospital to be monitored. I wasn't expecting that, but my appointment was literally on my due date, so I wasn't concerned about, you know, is the baby big enough, or has he had enough time in there. I was more concerned with if everything was okay with him and if that was normal for his heart rate. I have a really low resting heart rate, and I know that that can affect your baby's heart rate too. Also with my first son, he had a really low heart rate as well. Even with fluctuations, he was always on the lower end. She still wanted me to go to the hospital to be monitored. That was a very aggravating experience because I drove to the hospital, which was, it took me a while with traffic. I think it was about 40 minutes from my actual appointment location. They hooked me up and monitored me and the baby for an hour, and everything went back to normal. His baseline is just low. He was fine and I was fine. The midwife from my practice came to see me, and she basically told me, you know, you're at your due date, you know, the hospital is technically full, but if you want to stay, we can induce you tonight. I mean, she totally left it up to me. She did say that they were not super comfortable, although they checked now twice and had seen that the baby was okay and everything was fine with him, but she said as a medical professional would feel more comfortable if we basically got him out sooner than later, or if I had another concern about movement or his heart rate in the future. She just wants me to come to the hospital and just be prepared to stay and be induced. So she left it up to me, and the only reason I didn't probably stay and get induced right then was because I have another child. I have to arrange childcare for him. I have my mom staying with me right now, but she recently broke her hand, so she's not able to lift him, and he's still in a crib. So we have nannies who are going to come and help us when we're in the hospital. Having our second baby, I felt more comfortable being able to actually have time scheduled with them before going to the hospital and staying in the hospital, you know. And so my midwife was like, okay, well, you look great, the baby looks great. She's like, continue to monitor his movement. And I think it's interesting because with the practice that I go to now, they are so much more open about monitoring at home. My last practice, they're like, oh, we hate when people use Dopplers because they can't find the heartbeat and they freak out and they call us. Whereas my practice now is like, no, use it all you want. Like, check on the baby. We don't care. And if you are concerned, come in and we'll check you. I feel like the practice that I'm with now is much more proactive when it comes to the treatment of you and your baby. Just the little things like with my first practice, you know, I think my discharge is watery, and they're like, oh, you're fine. But with this practice, they're like, oh, let's check it right away. Let's do an ultrasound and check your levels. Like, they really were super active in the whole process of my pregnancy. And I feel like my first OB office was not so much so like that. So the point of that long story is to tell you, if you're not happy with your OB, I would highly encourage you to look into some others in your area. Talk to friends. I actually found my current OB through talking to my friend who had a good experience with his wife in their office. So, you know, ask around and find somebody that you like more, or you're more comfortable with, or who treats you better as a patient. That was a lot of symptoms, but basically at this point, after talking to a couple different midwives at my practice, they put me down for a scheduled induction. I'm supposed to go in tomorrow morning, but I have to wait for the hospital to call me to let me know if they have room. Although she basically told me, for whatever reason, you know, and she knows that I'm working with scheduling childcare and everything, for whatever reason, going to the hospital after that, plan on staying and having the baby, basically. So with this pregnancy, I wasn't planning to be induced or necessarily wanting to be induced. I'm honestly really surprised that I haven't gone into labor yet, and I think it's like half of babies go over their due date, but I've had so much pressure and so much pain these last few weeks. Like, I'm so surprised that he hasn't decided to come on his own yet. With, you know, the situation with childcare for my son, and also all of these symptoms and all this pain that I'm feeling, honestly, I just don't feel the need to keep going and going and going. And I know there's like a lot of controversy with elective inductions, but I've also read some different studies that suggest, you know, that induction isn't as dangerous as we think it is, or when it comes to resulting in more C-sections, that's not always the case. It really depends on the situation and the person. My next question is about food cravings, and I haven't really had a ton of cravings. I've just really liked cheese, but dairy and cheese has been like a common trend with me throughout my pregnancy, so that's kind of stayed the same. Food aversions, the smell of popcorn is making me feel like I'm gonna puke again. I don't know what it is. Like, that microwave popcorn buttery smell is making me really, really sick. I have a couple questions in here that I didn't include before because they weren't really applicable. One is about labor signs. I haven't had any actual contractions, but I have had some cramping and probably what I would consider Braxton Hicks. They're definitely not painful like real contractions, but I can feel that something is going on there. My next question is what I miss, and that would definitely be being able to have a drink if I want to, especially wine. And what I'm looking forward to, I am really excited but also super nervous, which is crazy because I've already been through this, but maybe because I know what to expect and what's going to happen, it can be rough. And I guess it just depends. Everyone's different on your labor and delivery too, but I know it's going to be bad, but going into it this second time, it's so funny because I was just talking to my husband about this. It's like when you know you're gonna get like something bad is gonna happen and it is going to hurt. Like when I got pepper sprayed and I got tased, like I knew it. Like this is gonna be bad and this is really gonna hurt, and you know it's about to happen, and it's coming, and you can't do anything about it because it's part of the deal, and it just and it happens, and it's horrible, but you get over it. But at this point, I feel a little bit happier about being able to mentally kind of prepare for anything. When I got sent to the hospital at my last doctor's appointment, I didn't know if his heart rate was super low or how low it was, or it was gonna stay. So I was also in my head mentally preparing for, you know, if I have to have a C-section, like what if they have to get him out right away and there's no time to induce me. So I started thinking about what if that's something that I have to prepare for now. My next question is what I'm looking forward to, and that would definitely be just finally having my baby here, and I'm really excited to see what he looks like. I really think he's going to look like his brother, and I'm also really looking forward to my son meeting him. Probably too, because like this is about to happen and I know it's about to happen, which is exciting. But you know, just seeing them together. The next question is about milestones, and that would definitely be reaching my due date. I am good to go and I am ready. And the very last thing is my bump shot. So this is my 40 weeks and 2 days. Definitely have the linea nigra, and I have this like random stretch mark. It's not new, but it was there with my last pregnancy, and it's so random because it's not like any of my old stretch marks, but I don't notice it when I'm not pregnant, so kind of crazy. But anyway, giant belly. Thanks so much for checking out this video, and I hope to have a labor and delivery video up soon because I plan to be filming that, not like the actual pushing part. I know there's like virtually no hospital that lets you do that anymore or at this point.